Okay, members of the Horde, thank you for showing up for this quarter's debrief, I guess. This is the writing slash life update of Daniel Green. Why do I say writing slash life update? That is because writing equals life right now. That's the worst handwriting you're going to see today, I promise. So, what are we going to break down first? First, I just want to clarify a couple of things about my existing books. I have two ongoing series, The Lawful Times, with the first book, a novella, Breach of Peace, followed up by a novel titled Rebel's Creed. This is entirely indie pub right now, aside from a special edition that Wraithmark is helping me with. Wraithmark's a name you're gonna hear a few times. They are what you would essentially call a hybrid publisher, mostly focusing in special editions, though that's changing, and they are getting more involved once we start talking about Neon Ghosts down here. But I did decide to give them my special edition rights for a combined edition of Breach of Peace and Rebel's Creed that's being re-edited by them, and that actually had a Kickstarter that's currently over. I believe you can still back it on Backers Kit or something, and that's the current state of The Lawful Times.
I mean, I don't have much background in literary anything, but this seems simple enough.
It's planned to be a trilogy of trilogies. This is a series I will be coming back to for a long time, but I'm putting on pause right now to just get other series I'm very passionate about and are fresh in my mind going. This is planned to stay, for now, unless some crazy offer comes around, my indie series. I really like it that way. It's just something I can have complete creative control over, and also it'll be just directly reflective of my own improvements as a result, because there's no really other spoons in that pot currently. Now, this is indie entirely. No one else's spoon has come in. So believe it or not, TLT is still the series I have made the most money from by far. The reason I mention that is because Neon Ghosts did have a Kickstarter that brought in roughly a little bit over, I think, 300K publicly forward-facing. This was then divided up 3 ways between Wraithmark, Kickstarter, and me. Let's put a little smiley face for me. And trust me, this, after all is said and done with costs and had such little overhead, I've seen some people claim like, oh, you just made 300. No, that's not how any of this works. Anyway, I'm actually really happy though that I've still worked with Wraithmark on Neon Ghosts, A Witch's Sin, and Wraithmark does have the rights to continue publishing the series. That could be negotiated away. I don't know the full future of that, but I have my current plan is to continue working with them because they did such a wonderful job making Neon Ghosts such a beautiful book. I still don't understand how this is my standard edition of this book. How? It's stunning. This is available not on websites like Amazon aside from the audiobook because it is only available through shop.wraithmark.com because we just don't want to, give Amazon a bunch more money. Also, Amazon takes a huge percent of the cut. One of the reasons that book is able to be so beautiful is we're not doing that. Anyway, this is mine and Wraithmark's, just mine. The reason I bring all of this up is, if you've been paying attention recently here on the channel, I have been talking about how well I did Hybrid for Neon Ghosts, and I indie published TLT. For my third and final series I plan on working on until I die, I want to go TRAD. Trad. And I don't want to get super sentimental on you guys, but I also want to say a big thank you to Bryce O'Connor, the CEO of Wraithmark Creative, for actually giving me the confidence to go trad. He's kind of been a mentor to me for like the last 2 years, getting me not only through Neon Ghosts, but connecting me with the people who are now allowing me to broach where I'm headed next. So I love Bryce, I love Wraithmarked, and I'm so happy to have Neon Ghosts still with them. Rights are confusing. It's just like I want to have one franchise in each, a foot everywhere. But yeah, just all the love to Wraithmarked and the team over there. This means signing with a publisher who gives you money in exchange to help you put out a book. Why do I want to do this? For a few different reasons. One, obviously money. Duh. Two, also, there is a prestige, the ability to hit certain lists, long-term authorial success that is really still only available this way. That's why you still to this day see many of the biggest sellers in the indie space who would arguably make more money unless they get a crazy upfront payday, staying in the indie space, getting higher percentage of all the cuts, especially as the anti-indie mentality is dying among readers. But still, they go this way because prestige, panache, history, all that trad brings. I've actually learned a few things about trad, specifically from the connections I made while going hybrid. And I want to talk about this, take a little bit of a side tangent, because it's fascinating. I always knew that trad kind of operated on an inverse pyramid. What do I mean by this? Everyone is aware that in terms of the bulk of the money that comes in for these publishers, a very few fish bring in the most of it. We have recently learned through that big court case that happened and the books written about it that finally gave us a detailed insight into publishers' breakdown of like revenue and everything, which normally they're very secretive of. Publishers like to keep it shh. It's really few that bring in a lot. Like, not thousands, hundreds of authors are responsible for a bulk of how these publishers stay in business. These fat whales that continue to just bring in, this is my best attempt at a whale here, what allows Tor, Orbit, Penguin, Hatchet to operate. They depend on those. There are then, of course, thousands and thousands and thousands of authors in kind of that middle space. These ones, you know, they may sell close to 1 million books. These ones, they sell in the thousands and thousands. They sell the thou. But a huge percent of authors, this might surprise you, they sell far less. Tens of thousands of authors, I'm probably exaggerating, I don't know if it's tens of thousands, but an insane percentage of the authors that trad people sign maybe sell hundreds of books, if not less. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't a, you know, I'm not trying to talk bad about any of these people. Commercial success, especially now as trad people are marketing less and less for the smaller authors they do sign, are having to really hustle for those hundreds, and I sympathize with them. It's crazy hard to ascend from down here to up here even after you get signed. The struggle, the grind is not necessarily over. Now, if you've watched my previous breakdowns of how many books I've sold, I'm already in this space. And I'm not trying to say anything aside from pointing out the privilege I have because of my platform. If I just published Neon Ghosts and didn't have this channel, it would likely have not sold incredibly well as it did. Same thing, especially for Breach and Peace of Rebel's Creed, which were rougher books. I didn't know as much back then. So I was essentially, because of the years I put into work on this channel, guaranteed, I just tried to draw with an eraser, to hop on into this space, and I did. Which means I'm pretty attractive to trad, and I just learned that. Which brings me to my next part of this. As a part of understanding where this pyramid is, I knew there were going to be some people who, well, let's get into who some of those people are when I'm talking specifically about agents. Now, I'm basically guaranteed an agent. That's, again, benefit of my platform. I'd be a jackass not to acknowledge that. I've had agents cold reach out to me and just be like, I'd like to rep you. That does not happen to people. That is a benefit of my platform.
Well, I'm kind of a big deal in this town, and don't think it'd be good if people knew I was a furry.
But I didn't want that. You may have actually heard me talk about before being signed to an agent. Unfortunately, that relationship didn't work out, and I had to leave that agent before going to look for another one. And what I really wanted to find with this other one was someone who would aggressively work hard to get me signed somewhere, and also not just tell me whatever I was writing was fine. That's kind of a concern. I do not want someone who's going to default to yes. So I narrowed it down to 2 agents. I haven't officially signed with the one, but they gave me a bit of a challenge. They said, before I'm going to send you a contract, I'm going to read Neon Ghosts, which they did, and they said it was good. They liked it. They wanted some more polish there for it to go to trad, but that's what trad's there for. You don't send them finished books, you send them books that they then do their trad thing. whatever, you get what I'm talking about. They wanted me to then also write them something that they think, okay, what would you want me to approach trad with? So they said, hey, write your next series. And that is where I came up with Better Dead, or BD. And this was inspired by my childhood, and follow me for this left turn, it's gonna get weird here. This was a paranormal urban fantasy book taking place in the city I grew up in the metropolitan area of Washington, D.C. Specifically, being someone who was born in the early 90s, some of my earliest memories are of 9/11. YouTube, please don't demonetize me. I'm talking about 9/11 as a concept for source of creative inspiration. But this was a huge part of my childhood. I mean, my dad worked in the DC area, and I remember being terrified that day. And I remember the feeling of the city change, probably the whole country change after this happened. And I wanted to write a paranormal fantasy about a ghost living in a ghost society that's discovered because of the surveillance state that became a thing in the wake of the September attacks. The reason this was really important to me was, I don't know, it just was really reflective of one, the area I was in. There was not a whole lot of fantasy books that took place in Washington, D.C. So it turns out trad publishers may not be interested in an early 2000s urban fantasy book thematically revolving around 9/11. So, well, my potential agent actually said, hey, I think Neon Ghost was good enough for me to work with you, and I like the writing of Better Dead. That concept isn't what we should probably approach trad with.
Shocking.
Side note, I am taking the 50-ish thousand words I had ready for that version of Better Dead and posting them on my Patreon 1 week at a time, 1 chapter at a time. So if you'd like to experience an early 2000s inspired urban fantasy, paranormal punk about 9/11 surveillance state, $1 a month and you can go ahead and check out these chapters as they are posted. This wasn't a no though. This was him saying, good job, let's try again, be more marketable. So I'm gonna come back to that story, but for now, it's on ice. And ironically enough, despite it being about a ghost Danny Phantom-esque guy, the name Better Dead wasn't working super well for it, and could ironically enough work for what I came up with next. And this brings us to the remix. Better Dead 2, Electric Deadaloo. But first, I'd like to give a rather heaping thank you to today's sponsor, Squarespace. The space that is Square be today's sponsor and is also the all-in-one platform that allows you to get active, online, moving today. What do I mean? Squarespace is here to educate and encourage entrepreneurs to build their very own platform. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from content to products to time and member-gated areas. Through their detailed tutorials, you'll be able to learn the tips and tricks of the trade while also elevating your entire brand, because they are jam-packed with features to help you get your business off the ground. And this really is a platform. Their asset library allows you to upload, organize, and access all of your content from one place, as well as manage all of your files from a central hub. And if you're worried, well, it's just gonna feel a little bit like everybody else's, no. Through their flexible website template, Squarespace allows you to customize your brand to exactly reflect your design needs on every device. That's right, they got that like flex template stuff that as I was a coder was a big deal, but I'm sure is old news now. Just drag and drop things across your website, place them where you want to, and maximize your creative potential. So whether it's blogs, email campaigns, appointment scheduling, and so much more, they have everything you need to get started. So head on over to squarespace.com for your free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Daniel Green to save 10% off your purchase of a website or domain and get your business up and running today. Look at it, it's running on off into the rest of the video. The first chapter of this I will also be posting eventually for sneak preview stuff, but this is what I'm working on for my agent right now, and is something I think will sell potentially a lot better to trad publishers. This is the story of Mikhail, who is not the chosen one. In fact, there is a chosen one operating in this world, and Mikhail is a bit of their rival. And through a trial for a rank of master, I'm trying to keep it spoiler enough free here, but give the elevator pitch that I have not practiced, because we're professionals. He ends up banished from his reality in a reflected reality of the Mother Realm, which is what they call their universe. And within these reflected worlds, reality can begin to distort. Strange things are happening because scientifically, these are not super well understood, so Mikhail is kind of acting as a guinea pig, just existing on this island. And this actually is what I'm really excited about, solidified what Better Dead really needed to be, and that is epic survival horror fantasy. Bit of a horror fan. I've said many times my favorite parts of the Wheel of Time are how into horror Robert Jordan got. I'm a big old fan of Stephen King, and there's probably not a horror movie I won't watch. Unless it's like The Terrifier. That's just a little... that's too far leaning. I'm more of a Hereditary guy. Anyway, through a mixture of rewatching shows like Lost, playing Elden Ring, and so many other sources of inspiration, the challenge of don't tell a story that's been percolating in your head for years, but instead get inspired, do something you think would be more attractive to trad, turned out to be a great source of inspiration for me, and I'm super psyched to work on this version of Better Dead, because what a lot of people don't understand is, yes, there are creative restrictions in the trad space, and it sucks. You can't just write your 9/11 paranormal fantasy and go, sell it.
How is that possible?
But within those constrictions, creativity can take hold. And I began to think about, like, what do I like that I know my audience likes and would commercially sell well? And an island full of mysteries with games like The Forest acting as inspiration, that's actually acting as a character piece for someone who needs to overcome becoming a bit of an antagonist and learn the flaws of their thinking and privilege and surviving on an island that can manifest the terrors of our world physically and into individuals. I'm gonna guess I'm hoping that you want that. Like, that sounds like something where you go, oh, maybe? Like, I want to check that on out. So that's the current state of my writing. I'm working on this and will eventually be posting sneak previews of it as well on the Patreon. And I'm really happy to say this, I can finally celebrate also over 30K words. I have made great progress on this after 3 books I've tried to get going, all of which getting to about 30K words before having to restart for various reasons. This is the one. This is the one I know I can take to the end. It feels really right, and I've never been so inspired before while writing. I feel like it's technically standing up, and if there was one bit of praise that even Breach of Peace and Rebel's Creed got for me, it was my ability to craft a horror sequence. And so I'm leaning into my strengths. I'm falling in love with the character and understanding their starting and ending point more than ever. And I'm really excited to, in the next couple of years, because trad takes some gosh darn time, get you Better Dead. This is planned to be a potential trilogy, maybe duology. It even has standalone potential. I'm not sure how I'm going to take it for this series. This is not the series name. This is the first book name. Don't have a series name yet. That's been your writing update. As I was literally finishing editing this video, I just got an email back from my agent saying that this is the book. This is the one we're going to take to the end. So I'm going to take that 30,000 words I sent to him and try and get it to around the 120,000 mark. That's where the book is feeling. I'm really excited, and your boy got to get to work. Thank you so much, Squarespace, for sponsoring today's video. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here, and I have a fun video concept. If you guys liked this presentation style, me scrambling around a whiteboard trying to communicate things to you, would you like me to explain books? Not review, but like, let's say I picked up, I don't know, a Farseer book or a Malazan book, and just did my best to explain the plot with like whiteboard shenanigans. Would that be something you're interested in? Let me know in the comments down below, and have a good one, y'all. I hope you are excited for Better Dead. I love you, bye!